That should be it. We should be live now.
Okay. Live news with all four of us. This is going to be pretty cool.
Wow.
Really cool.
Really cool. We might even have someone else. Where was that all happening? Oh, I can hear myself back. Why is that?
Someone else.
Oh,
yeah.
I need to stop something.
Do you need to mute the
I think we
YouTube?
did have somebody else.
Someone else.
Oh,
I can hear myself back like that.
Do you need to mute?
It's even coming through an American now.
what's going on?
I can hear myself back like that.
Ah,
What's going on? It's even...
woo! That's it.
That sounds better.
That all got confusing
Good
for a
work.
second. Wow. Where was that open? Yes, so we're all here. You've already heard Sparkle Puss in the top 10. Unless you're
And
listening
Mike
live
twice.
now. And me twice. Unless you're listening live now. In which case, we've had a little
Unless you're listening
rejig.
now, in this case.
We've had a rejig. So Sparkle is going to do the top 10s. And Random Dave is going to join us for live news.
And vice versa, I think we're going to get, as we we should probably discuss this with the listeners. So, listeners, we had a little internal show discussion, and just because of scheduling conflicts and the times that each of us are available, we have swapped around where, in general terms, for at least the time being, instead of random on the top 10 and Sparkle Puss on the news, we're swapping those two, but it's likely that at least a good percentage of the time we'll actually have Random and Sparkle Puss in the news and Random and Sparkle Puss in the top 10. But the ability to guarantee that somebody can make it is improved. So we're going to give this a try. We think it'll work out nicely. I think it'll improve the content. So, we may swap back in the summer once Sparkle Puss finishes up some school and such. But we'll see. We'll see. And we'll see what they want to do and what they like and all that stuff. So we had this discussion. I just want to let you guys know what's going on. And that's kind of the big news as to why we're all here now.
And give us your feedback. We want to know what you guys think.
We do. In the forums on Facebook, whichever you like, you can get in touch with us. And let us know. Y'all. So, what have we got for this month? What have we been up to? Well, it's not been quite a month. It's been about 3 weeks, but I've been busy getting our board game up to speed because it's been sat there for years and in a state of almost completion. So I thought, well, if I don't do it, I don't think anyone else is going to do it. So I have been printing off pieces. I've remade the board, made a brand new board, and made all the backpacks and things like that, made all the cards, printed them, laminated them. Everything's looking lovely and shiny. And I've just got a 3D printer at work. So what that means is I can print the pieces at work. So I need to get a few different colour plastics and print all the relevant pieces off in each colour. And hopefully I'll take it to Revival in a state of completion. So what I wanted to talk to you about is how you think we should proceed. So we've no idea, and we haven't discussed this already. This is me just throwing it out for everyone. We've no idea on numbers for pre-sales and numbers for print runs and things like that. So we haven't even discussed kickstarting it or funding it ourselves like we did with the Atari game. So what I thought we'd do is I'll hopefully have it there for Revival, ready. People can play it. People can see all the pieces, see how it looks. And we'll have maybe some cards there or a QR code people can scan. And it will take them to something like a Facebook poll. And there'll be questions. It'll only be a short little thing like, would you pay for this board game? Would you want it downloadable so you can print your own? Would you fund it on Kickstarter? Would you like to buy it direct? Things like that, those kind of questions. And that will hopefully give us some idea of numbers for, sales and how many we should get made if we actually make it. So what do you reckon?
Well, two things off the top of my head that become pretty clear. One, first of all, I agree with you that we have no idea. Is it 1? Is it 100? We don't know. Now, outside of just our little ecosystem, there is a world of board gamers that seemingly buy anything and everything, as well as card games. It is amazing to me when I see some of these board and card games come across, Kickstarter and other project, platforms, and I'm like, I have no idea how this thing is a big thing, but they go nuts for them. So I know a certain board game guru, one of our own listeners, James. You guys, Mike, remember we went to his house to pick up a TV and some stuff in Portland? Yeah.
We did.
So we should absolutely, if he hasn't been contacted by us yet, but here's it here on the show, James, expect a call. We should absolutely, as the leading board game guru I know of anywhere in the world, pull him into the discussion and get his advice, and I think that will be invaluable.
Yep. And James, of course, did the design of the game for us. He brought it along to Portland all those years ago, and we play tested it there. So all the game mechanic is down to him. So yes, we shall,
absolutely. I mean, he's the resource that I can think of, and a good one.
Sparkle, what do you think about getting something like that printed, cost-wise and numbers-wise?
I mean, too many variables to really say. I'd need to, a little bit more as far as the details and the specs and things like that. But yeah, I mean, totally something that I could produce, not a problem.
So here's what I'm thinking. We get any remaining copies of CG Adventures cartridges and have a bundle where you get the board game with the game, and then a Super Edition box where we do a reproduction of the Silverman Clico Chameleon box, and inside of the box of that you get the board game and the CG Adventures cartridge. And that's like the super top tier of it. See, we can do tiers. We can do all kinds of shit.
It should be the Subaru edition, and it comes inside of a mini Subaru.
The only problem with bundling it with the game...
an aesthetic choice.
We've only got one PAL copy left for sale. Most of the ones we have left are NTSC, and I think we're down to 20-something NTSC, something like that.
And a good portion of the world's NTSC. So what I'm saying is we could have that as an option.
We can have it as an option. I don't think we're looking at doing another print run on the game, are we? I think we've probably hit the ceiling for sales on it, perhaps.
You could always just have like one reward, one available PAL one, maybe make it super special, and then just have whatever limited number of NTSC that you need.
Yeah.
Super special.
Well, I mean,
PAL.
I'm sure we can not bore the listeners to death with the internal discussion, but I think we're on the right path by all means.
Awesome. So, this last 3 weeks, that's pretty much what I've been up to. I haven't touched the Sega cab for a while. I'm down to fiberglass in the side panels and getting those ready for painting. And, pretty much doing the board game. I've cut down the green screen for behind me. It's not up at the moment, and I've not had a chance to play around with that. But it's been a busy month. I'm not sure where it's all gone. But I also became a grandfather this week, which was a pretty big deal. So there's a new bundle of fun in the family. That's about me.
Well, as you heard in the Harbor Flashback, I took a little detour to discuss the restoration or reformation, as I will call it, of modern gaming. I have, and I've said this, I'm more than happy to say things have changed on this one. For probably, I would say, absolutely. Since we started this show, I have said on many, many occasions that as a gamer, I don't want gaming to be inaccessible or over for many of us. I, do not like that, I walk into the store and, okay, here's a console, and I'd love to buy new hardware. I mean, I've got all this classic hardware. I'd love to buy a new console and explore new games. And, I go down and it's unplayable FPS, shitty racer, sports game, and there's nothing for me to buy. I've said for many years I would love to walk into the store and buy a new system and a stack of games. And I'm pleased to say that the industry, by whatever mechanisms, I get into more detail on this, has responded, and games are playable and beatable again. I spent, in the last month, quite a bit of time. We had some bad weather and all, so I couldn't get out and do a lot of things I would do. And I beat Star Wars Battlefront 2, and I beat Titanfall 2. A couple certainly vestiges of frustration of Double Thumb gaming. A couple moments where, you want to throw the controller and it's like, all right, come on, this is bullshit. If you literally make 100 attempts to make a certain jump, that's just shit game design. But the rest of the game was certainly worth it. There were like probably 3 moments where I questioned my assessment that gaming had evolved. But no, so, I've got this PS4 Pro, and, now I've got actually a dozen games, which I think is a fine start, in a month to go from, nothing to, really seeing that in certain games they have evolved and created a playable method for people who just aren't Double Thumb gamers. And, so I've got about a dozen games to work through, plus the 2 I've already beaten. So I'm pleased to say I'm kind of back in modern gaming a bit.
Wow. I've been playing a fair bit of modern stuff, but, sort of been trying to catch up with my mates again on Monster Hunter World, which is my sort of crack game. I will play many, many hundreds of hours in that by the time I'm done with it. But something that I've been playing quite a bit of that I got into, which is a bit more a bit more retro themed, is Into the Breach, which is a new it's turn-based strategy sort of mech, little sort of small amount, 3 mechs in your unit of different styles, and they have different abilities, and you're basically sort of going through tackling islands of invading sort of insect-like aliens and clearing them out for these sort of corporations. And it's quite a quick to play through to the very end of it. It's very it's pretty quick. It's about maybe an hour and a half for a run, and depending on how many, there's potentially 4 islands you can do before the final level, but you can choose to just do 1 island and 2 islands and then go to it, or 3, or the full 4. But yeah, and if you die, you lose what progress you've done, but because it's so quick, you don't mind restarting, and then you sort of, sometimes you'll have kept a pilot from the previous run, and all the pilots have different skills, so you get to sort of mix things up a bit, and then as you earn achievements, you get currency to unlock more and more different types of units. So there's always sort of more reasons to keep going through and sort of playing in different styles, and there's a whole upgrade tree while you're playing through it, so you can adapt them in different ways. And it's a really well built sort of small little sort of tight strategy game, and it's got great pixel sort of 16-bit era, I'd say, maybe sort of bleeding a bit 32-bit, but very sort of nice animations to all the attacks and the idling and all the mechs and things like that. Some of the insect aliens maybe get a bit repetitive because there's only a few types throughout the whole of the thing. And they sort of maybe do palette swaps or slightly change their abilities and their strengths. But it's all the levels are nicely detailed and look good. So yeah, it's well worth picking up if you can. It's on Steam at the moment, just on PC, but they're working on Mac and Linux, and I would imagine it will come to many other things. It's from the guys who made FTL subset games, and that ended up getting ported to like the iPad, which was a very good fit on the iPad. So if you liked FTL, if you played that, that sort of was similar in terms of structure, but was brutally hard once you got to the end. This is a lot more sort of friendly, and so yeah, it's well worth a play.
Cool. Well, I've been doing some gaming with my family. Let's see, we have been playing a lot of Oregon Trail, the card game, and we actually picked up the expansion pack, which is the hunting game. The hunting game isn't quite as fun. Still a decent card game, but Oregon Trail's been a big hit here at the house, so we've generally played that every Friday night. I picked up a bundle on PlayStation 4. I think it was $2.99. I got Dig Dug, Galaga, and Pac-Man, all for the PlayStation 4. I mean, I own these games on multiple different setups and consoles, but it's just, hey, $3. It's a cheap and easy way to have it on my big screen. I like the PlayStation 4 controller, so I picked that up. Still playing a lot of Friday the 13th. I'm just completely addicted to that game at this point. If any of the listeners play Friday the 13th, you can find my gamer tag. It's just SparklePuss. Send me a message. Love to play with people as long as they have a headset. I don't know. I talked to some really crazy people on that game sometimes. Some of the strangest conversations I've ever had in my life definitely happened while playing Friday the 13th. So, yeah, I encourage everybody to play that game. It's so fun. What else have I been playing? I picked up Ironhide Studios. I don't know if you guys have played any of their games. They make all the Kingdom Rush games, sort of like Tower Defense. They put out Iron Marines recently. Picked that up on iPhone. I think it's $3. Instead of like being set in, sort of medieval fantasy world, this is futuristic Space Marines. It's a really good tower defense. They kind of improved on the mechanics, added a lot more features to it. So I've been having fun playing that. And I also picked up an iOS game called Granny. Have any of you guys played that one?
I had a quick look at it. Yeah, my kids have been playing it.
Yeah, it's like a horror survival puzzle. You run around a house and you have to find like keys and pliers and stuff and escape the house in a couple days. The graphics are kind of shit, but I'll tell you what, it is freaky. I mean, I literally jumped up and screamed like a little girl a couple times when Granny would whack me with a baseball bat. So that's a lot of fun. I mean, I enjoy sort of the horror genre.
So tell us the premise. You're basically trying to escape from her house.
Yeah. You're stuck in her house. You wake up. You got to kind of creep around the house. It's a 3D world. I don't know. Kind of looks like Doom Engine, something like that. Those level graphics. You have to open up drawers and cabinets and find keys, and then there's a sequence of different doors you have to unlock to escape the house. You have 5 days to do it. If Granny hears you, she comes running into whatever room you're in. You have to hide in a closet or under a bed. She'll drop like a bear trap on the ground that you can get stuck in, or she'll whack you with a baseball bat. But she's freaky fast, and I'm pretty certain that the phone microphone picks up the sound, and that alerts her. So if you're like eating chips and something or playing, she'll come a lot quicker. As you're kind of bumbling around the house, if you knock things over and make noise, Granny will come flying into the room. But yeah, there's been plenty of times where I'm playing that damn game and I'm just like, jump up. It's good for a jump scare. So check that out. I went and took my kids to go see Tomb Raider yesterday.
How was it?
Yeah, hey, I'm a fan of the actress, and her name escapes me right now. She was in that movie Ex Machina. She's a great actress. I think that they've come a long way from the old school movies where it's kind of telling of the times. Angelina Jolie's portrayal of Lara Croft was more of a cocksure sort of smug hero. This is more of an origin story, and I don't know if you've played the most recent Tomb Raider games, but I mean it's very in that vein where she's kind of a regular girl and you kind of progress and get the shit kicked out of you along the way. I mean, that's kind of how the movie is. She's just constantly grunting and screaming and getting the shit kicked out of her, falling from stuff. The visuals were good. It was a good action movie. It won't be remembered as a great movie. Mm-hmm. I don't know that you need to rush out and see it. If you don't have anything else going on and you're looking for something to go check out, or if you're a big fan of the series, definitely. Some of it was hokey. There's a couple plot holes. It was close. I think everybody is really looking for that video game movie that's gonna kind of break through and get critical appeal or acclaim. Award nominated actress or actor or writer or some. This kind of just fell short of a lot of that, but it was a good popcorn flick, good adventure. Kind of Indiana Jones-ish. I really didn't have any cringeworthy moments where the dialogue was just so awful. I mean, there were some bad points, but by and large, it's good. Recommend it. Check it out.
And she was called Alicia Vikander, of course.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the trouble with a movie like that breaking through is that it's tough for action movies anyway to break through for that recognition. But I mean, Wreck-It Ralph certainly crossed into the mainstream. Paula, my girlfriend, her youngest daughter was watching it, and she doesn't play games herself. Her boyfriend does, but she loves the Wreck-It Ralph movie, and I think a lot of people did. And of course, you got the second one coming out. Not sure when, but it's not too far away.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not too far off at all.
That's more of a kids movie. I mean, so my girls are 11 and 6. I was probably a bad parent taking the 6-year-old to it. It was a little tough, but I was trying to justify it as I'm trying to give them a strong, independent female role model.
Officer.
But yeah, I mean, she kind of goes from, I guess she's probably like early college age. Maybe she's somewhere between 19 and 23, something like that. They didn't really quite spell out how old she was in the movie, but she kind of goes in from, she commits a sort of reluctant murder early on, and towards the end of it, she's just like a badass murdering machine. Just kind of true the reboot video game where you had to kill a deer and she kind of feels all bad of it, and then by the end of the game you've racked up a body count in the hundreds. So that's a little bit weird, but yeah, it was good. Definitely check it out. It's one of the better video game adaptation movies that have come out for sure.
Good. And that animated GIF in the live window there is perhaps the best use of a drone yet.
So, one of the things I was going to mention about the return of accessibility of modern gaming was the way that they've made very difficult boss monsters beatable with enough sort of staged activity, if you will. Like, you actually have the ability, instead of just getting crushed because you can't leap out of the way, to apply a bit of cleverness, right? So when you were talking there about, the graining with the baseball bat, there's this bit in Fallout 4 where you've, come through the vault and all, and you've reached the boss monster, who's sort of this 1940s gangster. And, unless you're like, on modern games, typically you're just skipping around the battlefield, stab with a knife or something, and, magically getting out of the way of things. And I just can't do that. I'm trying to move these two controls, and, it just doesn't magically stick to the wall or bounce up in the air like it does for, some 12-year-old kid. So, I was able to sort of brute force it and clever it in that, you go into this meeting with this mafia boss, and he's sort of, you're having this tense discussion before everything breaks loose, or doesn't break loose if you negotiate and somehow get out of there. And I just, creep around behind the shelves and walk up right behind. And there's this one girl who carries a baseball bat, right? And she's brutally quick. So, like, the moment you open up, so you got like a minigun, right? It's like, 8-barrel, Gatling gun. And you have the beads dead on the heart of the boss. And as soon as he gets, you have basically the ability to fire. You open up with this chain gun. The guy should be sawed in half. No, it barely damages him. And then she runs around and clunk one hit with the bat, you're dead. But if you're armed with a bat, you're hammering away for, 100 hits and barely doing any damage. So, that in the past would have been the end of that. That would be, okay, it's essentially unbeatable for me. And why continue? So, in this case, I was able to creep around the shelves, and as she, he's pontificating, and she's standing there posturing with her little baseball bat, I take out a double-barrel shotgun and just, sitting there with the right-hand analog controller, just tap, tap, tap. Okay, tap, 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 tap. Okay, that looks right like the base of her skull. Tap, tap, tap. Okay, that'll do nicely. Boom! Off comes her fucking head, you know? And then you took away sort of the enforcer that kills you, so you're actually able to fight just one monster, you know, one boss at a time instead of having them double team you. But it was just funny when you mentioned the granny with the baseball bat. I said, "Oh yeah, I know another baseball bat wielding video game person." But, you know, it's just cool that you can now employ strategies to kind of get around the just leaping, jumping, and somehow not getting hit shit. But good old baseball bats in games. Top 10 baseball bat games. RBI baseball.
Well, yeah, I'll say apart from baseball games, a lot of them are going to be scrolling beat 'em ups. So Mike's not going to enjoy that much, is he?
Nope.
There's some fucking good baseball bats and some beat 'em ups there, especially the aluminium ones. Oh, great thwonk.
Oh, they make a nice sound, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh.
Smash TV. Smash TV is
Oh, yeah,
a
of course,
top-down. Yeah, see?
Yep.
I think one of the best hitting over the head sounds I've ever heard. I think it was Psycho 3, but it could have been Psycho 2. But anyway, there's a scene at the end where Norman hits someone over the back of the head with a shovel, and it's just the best sound effect. I'd watched that film the first time I saw it. I just played that scene over and over. The sound was just great.
I tell you, the best sound, baseball bat, top 10 baseball bat murdering sound. The best baseball bat murdering sound I've ever heard. If you go back and watch Goodfellas, in the end where Joe Pesci and his brother are in the cornfield and they've already dug the hole, and they've got them standing there in their underwear, and the other mafia, guys are standing around them, and it's apparent they're not making it out of this, right? And the first mafia guy just takes an aluminum baseball bat and ka-thunk, and he goes in the hole.
Was that Goodfellas or was that Casino?
I always get this.
Joe Pesci gets wasted by a baseball bat in Casino at the end, and they make him stand over the hole.
That's right, because he got in Goodfellas, he got smoked when he was being made.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on, they're essentially the same movie. But
great films.
Two of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah.
But God, I mean, for somebody who's seen them each 100 times, I think as time goes on, I only mix them up more. But in the Casino, that's right. You know, it was revenge for the Billy Bats killing a lot of other things. You know. Yeah. But clunk, and then they sit there for like a good 30 seconds. You just hear the bat. Blah, 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 as they're just landing blow after blow.
Speaking of mixing them up, I think someone sorted news top to bottom, so I think the oldest are up at the top. There was one here from me, which was one word, Tesloop. So Paula went out to California in January. Her parents go out there for 3 months every year and live in Palm Springs. And so she took them out there. Her dad hadn't been well, so she helped them with luggage and shit like that. But the problem was getting her back to LA to fly back, and they looked at trains, buses, and all of that. The timings and the costs were all out for one thing and another. So she ended up using this thing called the Tesloop, and it's literally a loop of Teslas that go out. You know, they'll do different routes, and you book a place in it like you would a plane. So if you've just got a little carry-on bag, you know, you book a seat in it, and you can keep your bag with you. If you've got like a big case, then you need to book 2 seats. And it was like $50 to get from Palm Springs over to near LAX. So these Teslas that just run back and two. So the thing that's kind of funky with it, they stopped and recharged for a little bit on the way, put in some fast charge because they were going to hit LA traffic and may have run out, may have not run out of energy. So, you know, a little funky battery technology perhaps, but decent idea though, I think. And it's owned or part owned or whatever by Nolan Bushnell.
Now, the thing that comes to mind there is, let's say you have a flight to catch and it's like, hey, we're going to stop for charging. And you're like, no, dude, seriously, that's not cool. Yeah, we're stopping for.
Yeah, a little bit funky, but decent idea, I think. And it was the best way to get back to LA from Palm Springs. So,
well, there's nothing worse than LA traffic and LAX.
yeah, and she was
Those
flying
are,
at like 12 or something like that midday, so it was right in the, the heart of the midday traffic, rush hour traffic, so.
LAX is perhaps one of the worst designed to run airports I've ever seen, next to like Entebbe in the 1960s. I mean, it is a brutal experience. You'll get off the plane and to the carousel quickly, and then the hell begins. The rental cars are not accessible; they're not anywhere nearby. The cabs are sometimes it's just a parking lot out there. It's just bad. It's over capacity. It's a terrible airport, poorly run, and the Tesla loop thing could, I think, probably only end in it pulling over to charge and royally screwing you, and then probably doubling the bill for the privilege. Yeah. Oh, we got to get some electricity. Break out your wallet.
Yeah.
Well, I seem to have left it.
So one here from Karl Klitsky, who says, for any listeners who do like sports games, King of 94, WI, was held this past weekend, as of this email. Some of the best NHL 94 players in the country got together in Green Bay, Wisconsin to duke it out for the title of King of Wisconsin. There were tournaments for the SNES and Genesis versions. And, it seems like he entered. He said, I was flattened pretty quickly by players from all over the country. So, yeah, he turned up and took part. It was held at a VR arcade. And they even had a guy playing organ and a real sports announcer for the finals games. Linked is the announcer Ada Orkel's recap of the weekend. Link, as always, will be in the show notes. And if I remember and can get there quickly enough, I'll paste them in live chat as well.
I love a good organ.
An organ player.
Got one here from none other than Mike James, and it's entitled The Retro Stone, Ultimate Retro Gaming Console. So it looks like sort of a short widescreen format of a Game Boy. Very similar layout to like a first edition Game Boy, but with a few more buttons. It's got a D-pad and all that. And it looks like it's somewhat off-the-shelf hardware on a custom PCB, sort of, basically looks like a RetroPie that they kind of move the bits around a little bit. It's got HDMI out, 4 USB ports, Ethernet port. Why they went with a hardwired Ethernet port is kind of curious. But you can buy either the PCB by itself, and you could then put it into a box and wire it up, and you basically at that point would have for 69 quid you'd have a RetroPie, or for 120, I want to make sure I don't get this wrong. Let me scroll back up. For 129 quid, you can get it with the complete handheld casing, and it kind of looks to me. I get it. I mean, it's funded, right? It's $165,000 of a $36,000 goal. And they've gone and done something unconventional in this era of new consoles. They first assembled a family, or a group of young people that are excitedly sitting around TV playing the console. That's, been done. We all know that. But then they went and did this thing called a prototype, where they're showing the physical 3D printed casing, but not just any old casing, Michael. They've gone and put a fully developed circuit board in it so it works.
This is the same people who did, I think, the Raspberry Boy, I think it was called. This is their second project, and there were a few issues with that one, screens and what have you. So hopefully they've learned the lessons from that, and I think this is the one, with the button layout on the back. People didn't like the L and R1 and 2 buttons on the back. They've changed the layout of that. And
what they did is it runs RetroPie.
Mm-hmm.
What they did is they took a Raspberry Pi chipset, redesigned it with some accessory components instead of stacking on a secondary board. And, it's not a bad idea. I'm not knocking it, don't get me wrong. If you wanted to take a Raspberry Pi portable with RetroPie, this is, for a couple of bucks, somebody's basically building you sort of like a Ben Heck, custom portable Pi thing. So, it's certainly worth the money if you want to play Raspberry Pi, RetroPie portable.
Mm-hmm.
What does that? What does that work out to be? €148.
129 quid into USD. I don't know the exchange rate right now.
It's probably
it's going to be
70.
Probably not quite that. 150, 160 maybe.
Really?
For us, the exchange rate has gone to shit. So we're paying a fortune for anything from England.
All right, Random might be right then. I've not looked for a while.
Oh, it went to shit real bad. I bought something out of the UK. Oh, I know what it was. Something I'll be reviewing in a hardware flashback soon. Somebody went and made for the Commodore 64, there's the data set unit.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody went and this is entirely unnecessary, but it's a neat gadget, and I had to have it. They made a digital data set with an SD card. So you can already use many of the available adapters out there. You can use like the MMC cartridge, and you can load the actual tape file right off of that and play the game. You can take an iPad or an iPhone or Android or anything and just play the MP3 of the Commodore 64 tape game. There's a million ways to get it done. What they've done is created a little unit that it sort of has like styling cues from the original data set. It plugs into the data set port, and then it has an SD card with your cassette tape images on it, the MP3s of the cassette tape image, and then you select it and press play. So it's just a little MP3 player that is probably off the shelf, but it's in such a nifty little casing. I was like, all right, you got me, I'll buy it.
Yeah, speaking of Kickstarter, one that I forgot to send in, and I just remembered now.
Yeah, $179. Random was essentially dead on. So for $179, you're getting a RetroPie in a box. I mean, you buy all the components, the screen, all that. You're probably sitting there at $80-90 to put it together. So for $100, someone's putting it all together for you. So that's not bad.
Yeah. So carrying on. Yeah, I've got one that's Hardcore Gaming 101, doing another book release. Usually they do their books through, mostly they just release them through Amazon, I think, and they're paperbacks, but they're doing a hardback book about Japanese video gaming obscurities, and they're releasing this on Kickstarter. It's currently at £8,649 of £11,629 goal, so what, 2/3 of the way there. It's got 23 days to go at the time of recording, so that's finishing April 11th, it says, which is, 10 days after this show will be out. So you've got a bit of time if you want to grab it. And it's actually sort of reasonably priced for one of these books, especially hardback. It works out to 15 quid, and then only 5 quid shipping for UK, but they've got sort of bundle deals, so you can get 2 for 25. And obviously pay combined shipping on them, so you get them a bit cheaper if you want to with a mate. If you'd like their write-ups of games on their website, as I've spent many an hour while I should be working reading them, they're pretty good stuff, so it'd be worth grabbing if you like weird Japanese shit and books.
Well, real quick, while we're on Kickstarter, there's a game that's on campaign right now. They're about 50% of the way there. They have 27 days to go. It's called Big Drunk Satanic Massacre. And they're looking for $6,666, of course. It looks to be one of these top-down RPG shooters, kind of like Loaded or Reloaded. It actually looks pretty fun, so I'd say check that out. It looks pretty... tongue-in-cheek.
I got one here. Let's see who posted it. Sorry, Carl Klitsky posted it. And it says, hey guys, this just popped up in my feed. I don't remember it coming up on the show. Former Atari CEO Ray Kassar dies December 10th, 2017. And he attached a link to an article. Yeah, I remember seeing a couple links to the article, and I don't know how this escaped one of us remembered to bring it up on the show, but not a bad time to talk about it. I mean, the guy certainly had a very interesting history. He came up as a young executive at Burlington, which, is a huge fabric and garment company in the United States. And he literally spent like 30 years there. The guy was like, in his 50s when he ended up coming on board when Atari was acquired by Warner. And he presided over a lot of the good years of Atari, sort of the golden age. I mean, you look at it, the 2600 came out in 77 and was not a blow-away hit. It took basically Space Invaders coming out and a few other things. So like 78, 79 started gathering steam. It was really like, 80 when that thing just had its monster, presence. And Ray was there from 78 to 83. So, he had a 5-year run before, the wheels started coming off the Atari's trajectory, before the video game crash of 84. So he was CEO of Atari during sort of the golden years of Atari, He did have some contentious, moments where, some of the employees, didn't care for him too much. They, called him the towel czar, because he had been in the fabric and garment industry for so long. He was the one that sort of said, that these programmers are nothing more than prima donnas, and they're more important than the guy that puts it together or a guy that designs a towel. They're just producing a product. He applied the widget discussion in business school and said, look, you're just making a widget. This is all it is. And he didn't understand. So in a way, his lack of understanding of what it really took for creative types to make a video game. And that was back, when maybe there wasn't necessarily a team or the team was very small and, you produced the whole product, So in a good way, he did navigate the company successfully during its golden age. And on the negative, his missteps led to some people storming out and creating a little thing called Activision, which created the third-party software world. So, even his mistakes bore some fruits. So, I think, Ray, controversial in some ways, definitely benefited the video game industry, even maybe in his missteps. But the guy made it to almost 90 years old, and, what can you say? Good fellow, and sad to see him go.
Yeah, I don't know how we missed that one, but missed it we did. I reckon Amber should walk up behind Random and do what that guy's doing in the GIF.
keep this, I think. Afraid. Well, she would, but she's not getting in here. Shut her away.
Got one here, which is yet another Kickstarter for the Game Parlour, a place for people of all ages to unplug and engage with each other over board games and food. And it's a Kickstarter for like a board game cafe in San Francisco. And speaking of which, I know that I was talking to Adi the other week, and he has joined near him a board game club, so he'll go over, once a week and play some board games. And I had a look around board game places and clubs and stuff around me, and there's a fucking ton of them. We were talking about it earlier. We don't know how Scott, knows how big that crowd is. There is a ton of people who will go out and buy these funky board games. So yeah, there's a load of them just around me.
Dude, it is mental because MagFest has a large, board game contingency. Mm-hmm. Now they are, to hear them tell it, and honestly, how much funding does board games really need? You've got the board games, you've got a table. There's not a lot of extras. Mm-hmm. It's not like consoles where you need funding for buckets and buckets of extension cords and RF cables, and board game, and you kind of need tables. I mean, that's about it. But they complain that they're the bastard children, and that they don't get enough love or enough funding, But, they're the most hardcore element of MagFest. When we come into the hotel to occupy the hotel and start setting up the arcade, like we're talking, 3 days before. Let's say the show opens up on Friday. We're there, Wednesday. By Wednesday evening, there's already board gamers out in the lobby, and they're there gaming. Like during the 2 days that really precede setup, they're out there every day, all day long and all evening long. And then once the show, concludes, they're still out. We're like loading at arcade games, and picking our way through board gamers to get the cabinets out. We're like, go to your homes, people.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever solved a Rubik's Cube before?
Yes.
Yes,
I think my best time was about
I think.
my best time was about 40 seconds, I think.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
What was it, like one move?
No, we had a competition when I was at high school. We had a competition, and I think it was at 83. They ran a competition to see who was the fastest in the school, and I got into the final, which is where I did my best ever time. But there was someone who did it in 20 something. Yeah, I think mine was about 40, something like that.
I mean, was it like really messed up?
Yeah, they mixed them up for us, and they were pretty screwed up. Yeah.
Had you already been told and figured, like someone told you the technique? Strategy to it.
Well, yeah, I do have a strategy. I've actually forgotten how to do the bottom row now, so I can still do the top 2 rows, but I've forgotten the moves for the bottom one. So I used to know the moves. If I want a corner piece, flip into another corner, there's a series of 3 or 4 moves, and it moves over to where you want it, and I've forgotten those moves for the bottom row.
Well, I don't know that I ever actually beat one without removing the stickers and reapplying them.
Oh, we did that, yeah.
That's definitely what I've had to do.
Prize the pieces out.
Like I never figured it out, but
I just twist away randomly for weeks until it came into alignment.
Sean Stevenson sent one in about the computer takeover, the robotic takeover of the universe. Basically, a new guy. Ben Katz, a student at MIT, was working with a guy to create a machine that would be able to solve the Rubik's Cube. They set a new record. So it's 0.39 seconds now. The previous robot held the Guinness record of 0.63 seconds. There's a video on the link. You have to watch this thing in super slow motion to even see it work. It's crazy. I mean, this thing just spinning shit around so fast. So I don't know. It could take 3.7 minutes and it would still have me beat, unless I could peel all those stickers off real quick. So
one there for random that can't remember who sent it in, but who was it who was talking about vinyl and video games?
I discussed video game vinyl in our top 10 investments.
You did? And Sean Stevenson sent one in there. Have you seen that? The Namco Museum?
You sent me it in WhatsApp when it came in, I believe.
I did.
And I had a little cheeky look. So let's have a look at this again, remind myself. Taking ages to load, but yeah, it's what it sort of sounds like. It's a collection of Namco arcade games, which it's now, why is this page refreshing lots? On a vinyl disc. Comes with a bit of artwork for what looks like Pac-Man, Rally X, Gallagher and Mappy, and the sleeve's got the Pac-Man maze on it, and a picture of is that Dig Dug on the other side. And the disc is a very colourful sort of splattering of colours. I don't know if it's hard to see if they're actual little sprites, pictures as well as sort of colour bursts on it, but I don't know how that often. I know sort of coloured vinyl tends to detriment the audio quality somewhat, having it scattered around randomly.
This is neat looking.
I don't know how many people are going to actually end up playing it, which I think is something that possibly happens a fair bit.
Well, see, for me, this would be, I think, the very definition of an impulse buy. This is not something I would anticipate, plan to purchase, order in advance. This is something like if I was in, say, Fry's Electronics, right? And, I walk by their little vinyl section. I see this on the end cap, Namco Museum. And, it's got the record and the sleeve and all that. And it was like $19.99. I would look at this and go, all right, I would definitely fucking peel out a $20 bill for this thing. I'd buy it, take it home, play the record, put it on the shelf, and it would sit there. And it'd just be another one of a million things that I have, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I perceive this. They want $35 and then shipping, so you're talking $40 for this thing. I don't think this is a $40 deliberate purchase. I think this is a $19.99 impulse buy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they're just they're going to be capitalizing more and more. People doing it these days. They're going to be sort of jumping on the buzz, and sort of the prices of them are, I think they're going to have to find, let the market find its own equilibrium. I mean, you can probably get away with charging stuff for things with really strong fan bases, like the Outrun releases and Gunstar Heroes, and Darius had an expensive vinyl release, but sort of, a general hodgepodge of a selection of Namco arcade music. I think that's going to be, less sort of really sort of avid, hungry collector crowd in there. People just more sort of interested in game music or the general artwork of it. So I think, it would need to be a lower price than some of the more hot ticket items. But yeah, I think we're still in a fairly early-ish stage. They're going to try and keep creeping up, I'd imagine, until they get to a point where they're not really selling, and then they'll have to naturally come back down, or they'll just give up and say, well, they're not selling anymore, no one wanted them, which will be blatantly untrue. They just outpriced and priced themselves out of the market. But
I think this will be popular, especially with mixed DJs that are out there, with the recordings from all these different games and stuff on it. I could see this being mixed into hip hop or EDM music, something like that. So I have no doubt that this will sell well to the collector market as well to, DJs and fans of vinyl.
Well, I mean, how big is the DJ market? I don't know.
Big over here. Definitely.
I mean, that's what essentially kept vinyl alive for so many years.
I just, maybe I don't understand the DJ thing. And like, whenever you go out to Vegas, they have all the DJ war. I mean, DJ wars. When I just cannot imagine actually taking time, effort, money, or any effort whatsoever to go watch somebody fiddle with knobs and screw with music. I
had this conversation with millennials. They go and watch DJs, and they're like, "Oh, we're going watching this guy. He's a much better DJ than this other guy is." And I'm like, "So what does he do? Play records better? I mean, how does that work? How does someone be a better DJ?"
He fiddles with more knobs, sir. Yeah. He fiddles with more knobs.
In a club situation, I haven't been for years now because I'm boring, but used to go drum and bass nights a lot, and you get definite, people will read the room better than others, and they'll end up, being able to sort of gauge the crowd's interest and what sort of they're into and what's going to
read the room. So what you look at there and go, I was making this slider go up and down, but if I go to this other slider, that's what that's
people go crazy.
You like that slider? You like that slider?
No, but I mean, especially like the mixologists, the DJs that are cutting things together. I mean, I'd recommend you go check out somebody like Girl Talk Scott.
He likes the name.
The guy is talking to
He doesn't like his girls to talk. What are you on about?
Mixing together so many different songs. And granted, this is generally hip hop music that wouldn't appeal to you, but there's definitely a skill level involved with this stuff. It's not just fiddling with knobs. It's timing beats and dropping on new records, spinning around, mixing things over. I mean, there's definitely an art to it. It's far more complex than fiddling knobs. Yes, there's some guys out there that are literally just putting on new tracks and, no different than your radio DJ. But,
one of the funnier episodes of American Dad was where it turns out that, and they just lambasted the DJ scene. The head of the CIA that Patrick Stewart voices turned out to be some famous DJ, that was like, and Stan challenged him and entered this DJ competition. So, he was rehearsing, and Haley comes in, and she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm rehearsing for the DJ competition." And he's actually like sitting there in a booth. He's got all the records. And coming up next on the Light FM, we're going to play. And he puts on a record and hits play and leans back, And she's like, "Dad, that's not what it is."
So I went to a conference this last week, and so they had like a portion of audience questions and things, and they were throwing around something called a catch box. And what it is, it's a foam cube with a microphone inside. So they literally throw this foam cube at you. You catch it, you talk into the microphone, and you throw it back. And I thought, that'd be pretty cool to have, if we're doing live top tens or something like that. Looked up online for the price of these things. Nearly 500 fucking quid for this thing. It's a foam box.
Mike, I got this. What's it called?
A catch box.
They have those at my my workplace. They do it for like team building.
Yeah.
If you work at a company that has like a ton of people, there's all these like interesting kind of bullshit positions out there, like director of excellence, and they can't really explain to you what they do, but they usually host these big corporate meetings where they throw around foam microphones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the other week, I was pontificating on a non-existing, because my role is expanded. I now have 5 job titles for some reason. And I said, you know what? I need another fucking title, and I want to pick it. I want it to be called Expectation Manager. So whenever somebody says, if we could just get this fixed in this software version, we could actually do. Look. Do you realize how many months of development coding we're talking about here? And the documentation alone. But the documentation necessary. Look, the documentation. I know ideally the documentation should be released with the software revision, but it's just not going to happen in this environment. And all I do is walk around and bring down people's expectations. But no, I think we could do the, a simpler cost reduced version of this, Mike. And here's what I'm thinking. We go get like a simple fire brick, right? We get a masonry bit and we drill down through it from the long end. And, place in a microphone and battery and, a charge port on the end. And then fill up the end with a little bit of caulk so that the assembly doesn't come out. And, we just call it, the brick, So whenever, somebody wants a comment, you just hurl the brick at them. And if they catch it, and good. If not, maybe they weren't destined to speak in a public format and or have all their teeth.
Well, the last group live recording we did.
The banter brick. That's all we call it. The banter brick.
We ended up recording on my little handheld, dictation, interview recorder, didn't we? So all you need to do is just throw that around the room instead.
Yeah.
Just lob it to each other and talk. That's surely it. I don't know.
Look, the batteries could come out.
That's what gaffer tape's for.
Yeah, but then that's going to leave a residue. It's going to be hard to change. I'm telling you, we just slip that sucker into a masonry brick and, maybe hammer a little cork in there to hold it tight, and then we have the banter brick.
We can use the random one at Cambridge.
Yeah.
It's signed by Butler.
Oh, you know what? I'm Mike. For our next and Random and anybody else who makes it to our next expo in the UK, here's what I'm thinking. We do this, and we call it Butler's Banter Brick. What a fitting tribute to Butler. Oh, you got a fucking opinion, do you? Hurl a brick at him.
So, I've got some breaking news. I'm on one sent in by me. It's on the BBC. And as I've got the page open, I got a breaking news update. Putin secures 4th term as Russian leader with at least 73.9% of the vote, exit polls say. A bigger win than in 2012. So there you go, breaking news. And the story
I saw a great article the other night, and it was, about the Russians. And this is something that we can off-road just on for a second. The Russians used chemical weapons on British soil. Nerve agent. Nerve agent's nasty shit. I mean, as soon as I heard the symptoms that, this guy and I think his daughter were brought into the hospital, and it made people in the, ER that were tending to them very violently ill. That to me immediately smacked of persistent nerve agent. And it's basically a neurotoxin. It's basically spraying for people is what you're doing. And, the symptoms, the sudden headache, nausea, dizziness as your nervous system is being attacked, But somebody, I think, not intending to be clever, entitled the article, Theresa May do something, or she may not. I mean, But, isn't that extraordinary? I mean, think about it. On British soil, the Russians used, chemical warfare. I mean, that's as an assassination
Not for
attempt.
the first time.
No. But it's not like they just sent in, fucking Sergei with a fucking 9mm with a silencer and capped some asshole in a back alley. They used chemical munitions, and when, the British government, to their credit, kind of said, hey, no, this shit doesn't fly. You got a couple hours to answer up for this. And fucking Putin, I mean, this is like beyond the pale. This is dangerous. I mean, real dangerous shit. Where, Putin pretty much came out and said, what are you going to do about it? Don't fuck with a nuclear power. And, there's a contingent of folks running around the UK there, as trying to get rid of the sole nuclear program you have, the Trident. And if you got rid of that sub-launch nuke deterrent, what's to stop, Putin from just doing willy-nilly as he pleases because he doesn't fear any resistance, But, man, that was extraordinary that he used chemical munitions on British soil, and he just says, what are you going to do about it? I got nukes.
Yeah.
This guy is not a friendly world player.
No. So the story I had open was AI finds novel way to beat classic Qbert Atari video game. And this was the version on the 2600. Again, it's an AI playing a video game, but it found some flaws in the actual game code that just let it just keep racking up the score. It was something, I'm not sure if it describes it in here. I don't think it does, but it was something to do with jumping to different squares. And if you do it the right way, then there's a flaw in the code that lets you just rack the points up. And that's what it found in the code.
And that's kind of what I brought up during the whole Todd Rogers, debate. Is there something that he's exploiting that isn't strictly so? I mean, and again, I think we have ample evidence that him and the kid toucher and all that were up to no good, in different respects. But there's definite shenanigans going on there. But I think it's entirely possible that if you look at like
Scott at RetroGamingRoundup.com.
Let's say that you play by, the proper method, right? So you're jumping from cube to cube. But what if you discover this, maybe it's even subconscious, that split timing, that slight move where you can rack up ridiculous points that isn't in the official gameplay? So you've got the experts, you've got the guy that decoded the ROM and simulated every gameplay, but didn't discover this little trick that was being exploited. That's, I'm saying, before we, break out the ropes and rush to hang somebody, maybe they were just clever, in some respects.
Maybe.
Well, we have a follow-up here from Chris Lethgo. He sent one in. Paul Legend is one of the people who brought forward the discrepancies between Billy Mitchell's Donkey Kong video game and MAME gameplay. In the link I sent, Twin Galaxies is posting a very one-sided opinion of the situation as news. No matter what your thoughts are in the high score scandal, it must be said that the editorial post by Twin Galaxies is pretty sickening. Claims were made that Apollo Legend, quote, snuck into the vent but yet photos of him posing with other people at the event, such as Billy Mitchell and himself, are out there, even in this article. This is heavy, obvious bias in the rest of the article. So, they responded here. It looks like, you kind of expect it, right? This article came out March 15th, so Twin Galaxies is kind of responding to everything that's gone on. I mean, I think they kind of had to, right? But they've basically put out a hit piece on Apollo Legend, trying to, question some of what that guy has done to their brand. What do you guys think about that?
Well, like as you said, they had to respond. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm not entirely certain what the state of the brand of Twin Galaxies is. Back in the day, as we call it, Walter was Twin Galaxies, and you would go to CGE, you would hang out with Walter and all the other, Twin Galaxies folks running around in the referee outfits, and they were a key part of the then, retro gaming scene in the mid-2000s. And, there was that. Then, as I recall, and I know this guy from the aviation world, he owns charter flights and all that, out of Florida as a pilot. And he, for some reason, I think at his kid's behest, sunk a big chunk of change into buying Twin Galaxies. And I don't know the nuances and details of the deal, but he somehow acquired Twin Galaxies. And then Walter stayed on as sort of the pitch man. And I don't even know where the hell it is now or who the hell owns it or what the hell's going on. But it's kind of like, the Atari ain't Atari. Twin Galaxies, this is not the Twin Galaxies of Walter Day in Iowa where he's writing a book and getting it published, or, even Walter Day at CGE. So who is exactly protecting the brand and what the brand is these days? I don't even know, man. I think that's just kind of lost.
Yeah, and I think, in all honesty, I think we've just got to go to a system of live high scores. If you're doing a high score on an arcade game, you do it at Expo, you do it at Fun Spot, you got to do it live. Only live submissions accepted kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like, people might break out the pitchforks and torches and stuff for me saying this, but I mean, are they kind of fighting over something that's just a little bit ridiculous at this point?
Yes, but then they've kind of cheated a lot of people. It's somebody somewhere has made money out of the fact that they've got a high score on Twin Galaxies.
I mean, really?
Yeah, like Rudy with the.
Yes.
He's rolling in it.
Did Billy Mitchell get paid for his part in King of Kong? I don't know. If he did, then that can't be right. If he's cheated his way to that, I'm not suggesting he has, but that's an example.
I mean, I think there's no denying the fact that the guy's a great gamer.
Oh, I'm not denying that. No, absolutely. Yeah.
And there's no fact denying that Rudy J. Ferretti is the greatest gamer of all time.
On minor games. Yeah, definitely. I'll go along with that.
Well, that's one funny thing is they were talking about, somebody sneaking into an event or whatever. When we banned Rudy for making, specific incredible threats, this was not a small deal. For making specific incredible threats against staff and guests of CGE. He was banned, and the hotel was super proactive. Their security are like, yeah, we'll see him coming a mile away. This dude ain't coming anywhere near this. Mm-hmm. And, we'll just eject his ass, unceremoniously and into the hands of the police, who were also fully up to speed on, him. But after the thing, he said he was what mask was it? Does anybody recall? He said he was wearing like a Freddy mask or something. He snuck into the expo. There was nobody in a mask. No. There, it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
Well, I mean, in this article, this Apollo Legend guy snuck into the event dressed as Billy Mitchell. To me, it just seems like maybe he's trying to get his own 15-minute
self-promote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing, dude? You exposed it. Okay, great. Now you're sneaking into events. Like, that just makes you look like an asshat,
Mm-hmm.
Or Billy Mitchell if you're clever enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Play to win.
So I've got one here, which was from a video by, I think, the 8-Bit Guy. So I've been catching up with a ton of his stuff. It's a great YouTube channel. If you've not been on there, go and check out his videos.
Stuff,
yeah, and he was looking at some of these mini tabletops that I think it's Target over there are doing. I've got the Frogger unit, and it seems the boards have multiple games on them. So you can short out a couple of solder pads on one of these things, and I think, was it Frogger also has Pac-Man or something like that, or Gallagher, but if you short it out, turn it on, you can play the other game on the cab. It seems that they've all got 2 games, but there are other solder pads that may do other things. He didn't go into that in his video, but he did mention the fact that there were lots of other pads around the board that you could maybe short out and get something else.
And they're worth picking up. They're clever little things. And as I talked about in the Hardware Flashback, that Oregon Trail game is cool. I mean, it's for the price point, it ain't bad. It's got a couple limitations, like the contrast and brightness and color palette of the screen are typical of a NOAC, a Nintendo on a chip, and a low cost LCD. One of the guys in I think it was our Facebook comments when we posted a picture of the Oregon Trail handheld, commented that, hey, yeah, it looks like a Nintendo on a chip. And so I pulled mine apart, and it was a double glop top. So just looking at the graphic style, listening to the sound, I think I'm not going to sit there and acid etch the glop top and microscope the freaking chip just to see what the heck it is. But I think it's entirely plausible it is a NOAC, Nintendo on a chip. But clever little toy, it's playable. I actually, kind of beat it on the first run through where, I got, well, sorry, I beat it. I got the wagon there. The people were a little fucked up. It's worth a purchase. It really is.
Yeah, and Willie picked me one up. I believe he sent it to you for the next time we're in the same country.
All right, I'll keep my eye out for it. I've got 2 things from Willie for you.
Ooh. Score.
Grab one that Mike sent in and sent to me a couple of, seems like a couple of weeks ago now. Guess it was start of March, which is from Gordon Murphy, who has started making his own game based on something that happened in the show. A most decent pastime, I would say. And he's been making Machu Picchu Mike on the C64. He says, last December, I decided to get my C64 manual out and work through it. I was messing about with the sprites listening to your show and your idea for Machu Picchu Mike game. I reckoned it would be good to focus my mind on what I was doing, so I spent quite a few hours in January getting a suitable Machu Picchu-like background map and getting a character to run and jump. And this is kind of similar to when I was looking for a project to practice some coding. I wanted something fairly simple, and the whole the whole story of Mike and Neil, on the football pitch was brought up, and Scott saying that it'd make a great game if someone could do it. And I thought, yep, that would be a nice simple thing to get cracking and get everything working and figure out my shit a bit better. And it looks like he's doing the same thing. And we've watched a little YouTube video of it that he's posted. It's looking pretty sweet, I have to say. I quite like the aesthetic to the background. Mike jumps a bit like a frog at the moment, but other than that, could be a game to watch out for on the horizon. Another RGR-inspired classic.
I really hope.
And I tell you what, we will definitely throw our weight behind this thing. We will push this anywhere we can. We will, let them sell it, promote it, push it on our platform. I think that goes without saying. Yeah. I like the way that Mike looks like an ant.
I really hope that they add in some kind of feature where Mike gets to chew coca leaves and then run a lot faster.
Oh yeah, his stamina, his speed goes up, but his mental acuity goes down.
His jumps are a little floaty.
Yeah. The background fades in and out.
And as you take it, it gets more and more watery, and you have a harder time gauging your jumps, yet it extends your ability.
Got one here from Peter Gibbs. Peter Gibbs said he always liked the video games from the Wii and GameCube era and their graphics. He said maybe it was the last time where video games felt like games. Here's an interesting article on how the graphics were achieved on pretty limited hardware. And he sends a link. This article is pretty much about the deconstruction of the water effect used in Super Mario Sunshine. I'll be honest, my eyes kind of glaze over reading all this stuff. I am not a programmer, but talks a lot about the WebGL-based game module viewer, the effects that were used in Wind Waker. They go through a pretty detailed explanation of the texture and how they texture map this thing together. The MIP mapping that was used for the GPU. So if you guys are into the really technical aspect of it, this article seems like a great deep dive talking about how they created the water effect, which I might add looks pretty beautiful.
Yep.
I think that's an ongoing theme with Nintendo. I mean, I'm certain at this point pretty much all of us have played Breath of the Wild, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I haven't.
But you've seen it?
Yes.
All right, so one of the things about Breath of the Wild, and again, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I played the piss out of it. It was a great game. The only thing is, they really did cheat graphically quite a bit. It's very apparent that the Switch is kind of like PS2 to PS3 level hardware. It's nowhere near the capability of the Xbox One or the PS4. And they sort of fudge it if you look at it. When you look at something like, say, Link running through, like a large field and all that, you'll see the trees, instead of being like individual leaves with textures and all, are just sort of like a watercolor painting, You'll see the sea of grass is just kind of moving like, maybe 3 or 4 colors, and it's moving kind of like a blob of gelatin, They're definitely cheating a lot, especially in how they use, fog and other things. And especially, and maybe Random could shed, we think we brought this up before and Random commented on it. When game designers use darkness as a crutch to not have to render things, just make the game super dark. You don't have to render as much, and then it becomes so dark it's damn difficult to play. But yeah, Nintendo, I mean, I think just make games that play on the hardware. Don't try and fudge it. Just make games that fit the hardware you've selected to build, and I think people are okay with that.
Well, I think part of the challenge is they usually underdo it on the hardware, so they have to come up with creative ways of pushing the graphics further than what they're limited to.
Well, sure, but what if those creative ways don't really pan out and just look shitty?
But you can have really shitty looking games on really powerful hardware that there's no limits to what you can do, but still things have no artistic direction, still look like shit. And the way that the first crop of 360 games, especially on Unreal Engine, just looked brown, and that was about all they could do. They just did brown, and they were pushing for realism but not thinking about the artistic direction, which is something that's always had to be done on sort of traditionally on Nintendo platforms, just because of the nature of them being a little bit less high powered compared to the status quo at the time. So teams think about it in a slightly different way.
Yeah, maybe. Got one here Mr. James sent in, and it's console prices adjusted for inflation. And it's kind of neat because there are some surprises in here. So basically they took the original price and adjusted it to present day. And I'll just read through some of the standouts. The Atari original price in today's dollars is $796, originally $200. The Intellivision is actually one of the more expensive ones out there. I think it's in the top 3 here. $935 in today's dollars. In 1979, it was $300. That is, you think about the Atari and the Intellivision, they were very expensive for their day. The ColecoVision, which I would have put up there because it was, much more capable than the Atari or the Intellivision, was actually only $410 in today's dollars, which is almost it's within $2 of the Sega Master System, which was $412 in today's dollars, which is identical to the NES, which is $412 in today's dollars, both of them being $200 at the time. The Neo Geo is one of the, if not at the top of the price heap. I think it is. I think it's number one. The Neo Geo, it was $650 in 1990, or $1,125 in today's dollars. And there's some neat stuff in here. The GameCube being one of the cheaper ones, and the Wii not far behind it, and the Wii U right next to that. The Sega Dreamcast also kind of on the low end of pricing. But the cheapest one that I see here is, in fact, the GameCube at $259 in today's dollars. The Wii right behind it, $284. So if nothing else, you can certainly say that Nintendo, when able to ship them, delivers a console at a lower price point.
Ruining neighborhoods everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. These adjusted for inflation systems always kind of puzzle me a little bit.
Well, you just take the value of the dollar in the origin date and then adjust for inflation.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
You can do it with cars. You can do, like, people look back and go, in 1969, the Camaro that's worth, $80,000 today was only a $3,000 car. Well, that was a $30,000 car in 1969,
Nah. I'm saying, everyone, there was just some systems that were so ubiquitous. Like, I don't know, like everybody had an NES, everybody had a PlayStation 2. It just didn't feel like a huge investment.
Because you didn't make it. Your parents did.
Yeah.
I think they thought it was a huge investment.
They probably
I
did.
definitely bought a PlayStation 2.
And the PS2, let me see here. The price on the PS2, I'm looking for it.
$300.
$395. That's not.
It's not even midway in the list.
Yeah, but
it's the lower third of the list.
$800 or $1,000. That's a step up,
Yeah, the Neo Geo. I mean,
that was a boutique thing. That was very boutique.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody that had one.
You only saw ads for it.
You heard rumors like, some kid whose parents a NFL player, like they have one, and so and so knows so and so. But I never actually saw one. I never saw
one in person. No.
Yeah.
But you did see Atari 2600s freaking everywhere. But now that was the 1977 price. By 1981. When we were getting these things, they had been cost reduced. And that's maybe this is what you're touching at, Sparklepuss, is the cost reductions on these consoles when a lot of people own them especially the early ones, aren't necessarily reflected. The price plummeted on the Atari 2600 and the Intellivision and the ColecoVision from when they were introduced to when they were kind of main market.
I seem to. Wasn't there another PlayStation 3 that was even more than $500, or was that the top tier one?
No, the PS3,
wasn't there a $600 version too?
The original SKU was, so they had the cut down one with the 2 USB ports and no backwards compatibility, and then they did the one with the full PS2 chips inside it, compatibility in the 4 USB ports. And the bigger, it's only 60 gig hard drive.
The fat versus the slim?
20 gig. Well, I'm thinking of launch. I don't think it was expensive, but I don't think it was. And did they cut that down to one SKU for?
Yeah, they did eventually, because those are collectible now. But I seem to remember that one was like $600.
Oh, I remember the original PlayStation when they came out with the, I think, fairly confusing PS1. Where it was that little itty bitty PlayStation that you could even get the screen that snapped on it,
Yeah, the ONE one.
Yeah, I mean, I remember just going to the store and they were like $99 or something at that point.
But I mean, that was the thing with Sony. They did sort of go through like they haven't done so much recently, but they definitely had a strategy where they go for a redesign with a more efficient model, and then try and hit that $99 point, because they did it with the PS2 as well. The PS3 to a degree started to head that way. They did a weird one with a sliding door rather than any kind of disc eject mechanism or even a flippy lid. It was just you slid it open yourself, and it was just a bare drive sat there, and it was a real piece of shit machine in terms of how it was built really cheaply. But then that was dirt. That sort of was trying to hit that real dirt cheap price point as well.
I always had to sell my existing hardware and games to afford the next one. I think I sold my sister's Pog collection too without her knowing, to get the PlayStation 1.
I always used to do that. Yeah, when I was younger, I'd sell
Steal Mark's sister's
my
PlayStation.
console and some of the bunch of the games, and and fund the new thing basically, and just keep sort of doing that sort of constant upgrade cycle.
I never did because of the loss in value. Like, if you I remember, so I had Sega Genesis, I paid $190 for it, and I paid $40 a game. And here, look, I can get $50 for the whole ball of wax to save $50 off of a, whatever's net. Nah, I just kept it. Now, when I say I kept it, I did a better job of keeping some than others. I can't tell you how many systems I just threw in a box. And instead of putting it back in its original box and with all this packaging and keeping it nice, I would just chuck it in the closet, and it would end up, various cables would get lost, whatever. So I've got I can't remember the origins of some of this stuff. I've got 5 different SNESs that are in various states of completion and whatnot. Which, I mean, okay, I got it. But one thing I started doing after I had a discussion with Joe Santulli some time ago, not too long ago, but I told him, I said, I'm amazed that you saved everything, because he would take the cellophane off, take out the game, play it, put it back in the box, and he kept the little stickers, the little pack-ins, the foam inserts. He saved everything. And now, 30, 20, 15 years later, he has these amazing collections of things because he saved the whole thing. So, I thought, geez, why didn't I ever do that? As recent as the PS3, I didn't save that shit. I don't even have the box of the PS3 I got. I got nothing. I just got the PS3. So one thing I started doing, as of late, is when I buy something, I keep the damn box and put it up on the shelves. And that way, at whatever point I do cease to use this thing, I can put it back in the box and have a complete in-box unit, Not just so much, for the economic value, but for, having a complete whole thing to look back on later. So I think that's a lot of forethought that I didn't have at the time. So, yeah, I kind of always held on to that stuff instead of just throwing it away, but I didn't keep everything, and now I'm kind of trying to do that.
I mean, what you described, what he did, most people would say is somewhere along the lines of being on the OCD or autistic spectrum. I don't think many people save the friggin' wrappers,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you do, let's say you save, even the twist ties, you save all that, right? You can take that thing out, stick the bag back over the cords, twist tie it, put it back in, and it's pretty much indistinguishable, unless it's just full of dust and, roach shit and carcasses. If it's well cared for, it's pretty much indistinguishable from new. And that puts neat little things in the market, okay? For example, not so long ago, just a few months ago, I bought a ColecoVision. I watch all this shit on
filled
eBay.
with roach shit.
No, absolutely immaculate. So I watch a lot of things on eBay that I don't buy, just because sometimes you catch a great deal if nobody bids or whatever. I've already got ColecoVisions. I don't need another ColecoVision. But this one, it was complete with the box, and it was somewhat of a vague listing, but you could tell it was all there. It was pretty clean. It went for about the value of a loose ColecoVision. So I get this thing delivered. I take it out of the box, and the box had been open, the end flap had been open, but I cannot confirm in any way that this thing was ever actually used. It literally could have been opened, looked at, and never plugged in. All the cords were neatly wrapped up in their original format. The comic book was in there, the catalog, the fold-out poster, all that ephemera, all those little bits and accessories were all in there. And it was just really neat to have that. And so that's the kind of thing you can preserve, certainly for yourself years later, and possibly, for somebody that inherits it in the future, is that more complete experience. So I think it's
what
kind
did
of a
that
neat
run
thing.
you?
You're breaking up pretty bad.
What did that cost?
I don't remember what I paid. It was about the value of a loose ColecoVision. I could go back to my eBay history and look it up, but it wasn't that much. It was basically like, oh, shit, I pay that much for one that was just on the shelf working. So I bought it, and essentially I had the experience of a new in-box ColecoVision.
Huh.
Wow. So I've got one here which I sent in, which if anyone listens to modern gaming news, they'll have probably heard them discuss it last week. So from that gaming point of view, it's not so interesting to us, but it fits the fits the bill for us in terms of the sexual content of it. And this is the I Am 8-Bit, who make limited edition sort of special collectors versions of games, are making a special collection for the indie game that came out just at the end of last year, I think now, Inside, which is a sort of a bleak sort of 2D and 3D graphics platformer, sort of bit of puzzles in there, I think. Can't remember. Played the prequel to it, Limbo, but never sort of played this. But they've teamed up with Real Doll for their feelies inside the box, as it were, which a lot of people are speculating is purely just because there's a sort of a fleshy blob at the end of the game that they obviously, with Real Doll, people do make quite good flesh, so it's been said, and they're not actually making something that you would want to fuck, but probably people will find a way to fuck this, no doubt, because that's just what people are like, aren't they? And who could blame them? But it's a lot cheaper than a $4,000 Real Doll. It's only going to be a 375 quid limited edition, which is still probably a bit too much for most people, I would imagine, unless you're super curious of what it is.
I played through that game. Definitely one of the better games that I've played on mobile in the last year.
I'm doing a bit of show and tell.
Are you looking up for real sex dolls?
No. Are you not
So
watching
I've
the
got
live
it. So
feed?
far, I was going to say I've got a turd cup. There's
Hey,
a
guys,
Keep watching.
coming to you.
is anybody else hearing a horrific crackling, popping sound?
No.
Not on my
Oh.
end. Does it go away if I mute?
Nope.
Let's see. No, I'm hearing it when I was hearing it first when Mark was talking. Now I'm hearing it when everybody talks, and it's just almost unlistenable. Can we drop the call and reconvene a new call real quick?
Yep.
All right, thank you. I'll stand
Okay.
by at the ready.
Standing by at the ready. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh, he
All right.
didn't answer. Are you there?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's still there. It's bad. I don't know what the hell it is, but it's bad.
Okay, let me try. Did it go then?
No, it's just this horrible. It sounds like whenever somebody starts talking, somebody's back there twisting bubble wrap.
That's odd.
But I noticed when you dropped the call that random was still on with me, even though you dropped the call.
There's just me and you at the moment.
Yeah.
Let me call one of them and I'll see if they have it as well.
All right.
Yo.
Well,
Can you hear anything?
I can hear you.
Well, any background noise, like someone doing bubble wrap?
No, I can't hear that.
All right, let me drop you and I'll try Sparkle.
All right, I was just chatting to Sparkle, just us two left in that call, and I couldn't hear anything.
All right, let me call him now. Do you hear any background shit?
No, nothing.
All right, let's.
Did you save that stream
what stream?
or the last bit that we recorded?
Oh, yes, yeah, it's recorded all through.
I mean, you saved it though.
Oh yeah, it's still recording.
Oh, hey, how about that?
Have I added him there? No, it's add random now, because he couldn't hear any background either. He should be there in a second. Are you back?
Nope.
Oh, he's ignoring us.
Me and him were like on some separate call. It was like another universe.
Maybe he's trapped there. Maybe only you can save him. I was just talking to him, though. Come on, random. Call failed.
I wonder, did they update their Skype?
I don't know. They were going to keep it up to date. I think they both installed Windows so that they could keep an up-to-date version more easily. Let's try and add him again. Are you there now? There you go.
Yeah, I was just having a waz.
Oh, right, okay, that's why it failed. Let's bring the final one in and see who hears what. It's all quiet this end.
Okay. Sounds good here now.
Okay.
YouTube chat said they could hear no crackling noise on there.
No, there's
It
none gone
sounds
to the
great.
recording or the stream. I didn't hear it this end at all.
It sounds great now. I think what was happening is because there was oddity in Skype, because when UK Mike dropped the call, Random was still on with me. So there was something going on with Skype. It's clear now. Sounds great. Let's roll.
Let's roll. So, one here from Sean Stevenson. Hail to the king, baby. 3D Realms have created a new game with the Duke Nukem engine from, was it 95? Yes, it was. And the game is called Iron Maiden, Iron being spelt I-O-N. And it is running at 4K and 60 frames per second. So check out Iron Maiden.
Yeah, I saw some footage of this. I saw some people playing it, and it looked pretty mental because you forget just how much faster old shooters are until you sort of then you see go from watching a modern fish shooter and then back to this sort of the classic style, and things just flying around really quick. And from what it looks, I didn't look like they'd done any sort of particular tweaks to the engine. It's sort of straight up build engine, although it's like pretty big sort of levels look like, but looked really nice. There were people were running it with software renderer only, so it's just on the CPU, and it's still like obviously with modern CPUs it's flying around. So yeah, really interesting looking thing. So possibly worth checking out.
One here from Melody. Melody Ayres Griffiths. What does she have to say? She says an Australia-based two-woman startup has published the first issue of their retro technology magazine called Paleotronic, taking a look at the history of the Consumer Electronics Show, including interviews with Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak and with Stuart Chaffee, who was the presenter on the Computer Chronicles. And after running a successful Kickstarter campaign in late 2017, the married couple, Melody and April Ayres Griffiths wrote, edited, and laid out the magazine themselves, producing a full-colour, 120-page magazine. And they've sent us a copy for review only. Please do not distribute. I haven't had a chance to look through this yet, but it is on my reader, ready to have a look at. So I shall do just that. But not right now.
I don't.
I sent one in that I had come across. I can't remember now how I came across it, but it is the Arcade Vaults, which is set up in Cardiff in the South Wales area. And they sound like. Do you remember when sort of Play? Oh, I assume Play still do, but the original thing with Play was after they'd sort of got the base of Expo sorted, they then had all the gear and would, use them for doing sort of people's weddings or small, other events, and sort of, be able to turn up and provide a sort of a retro of, area for an event. And looks like they've taken, they've run with this idea as well, and they, claim, they've advertised that they've got, arcade machines or a variety of video games and systems, and got all the TVs and everything, and we'll sort you out with a retro or modern or arcade gaming area at your event. If you're around Wales and want someone to do a little thing for you, they will do that. They don't look like they're running any sort of little sort of expo-y things or anything at the moment that I can tell, but that could be interesting. Can't think of anything. What's the closest that would have been to Wales? I guess
Blackpool,
maybe like
Manchester.
Birmingham's not.
They're all pretty similar.
Yeah, but I can't think of any off the top of my head that stand out that have been in Wales itself. Maybe there's not that much interest. I mean, even sort of Jeff Minter, like their stuff. Where do they hold that? 'Cause what's that called each year? There's the I can't remember what it's called now, but there's an event that sort of sprung up around sort of llamas.
With something to do with llamas.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I can't remember what the event's called. But yeah, I don't think that's around there particularly. I think it's more central. So it could be an interesting one if anyone does branch out that way.
Found one here, not gaming related. Well, I guess it is kind of. We mentioned Friday the 13th before, but in Crystal Lake, somebody has gone down to the bottom of the lake and secured a fake Jason with the hockey mask and the rotting clothes and the chains around him to keep him down there for divers to find. So there's a video there of a couple of guys diving down to the bottom of the lake, and through the murky water, the fake Jason pops up. So if you're not expecting that, you're going to get a shock.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we have to mention it, definitely check out the link and check out this mannequin that they put down. I mean, it's legit.
Yeah.
It's legit. This shit looks so good. I mean, this is not like, hey boss, let's get some flannels and make us a scarecrow and put it. I mean, this thing looks so real. I mean, oh my gosh, they
Would
did
you
an amazing
say it's
job.
on the order of like a what am I thinking of?
Movie prop replica
Sideshow collectibles, like the guys that make like that Terminator I got.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
All right, let's have a look here.
so good.
I could not see the video, unfortunately.
Where the hell is Crystal Lake at anyway?
Ooh, I don't know. Alexa,
Why did I know you?
where is Crystal Lake?
That sounds like the brothel that was down the road from me. That was the Crystal Suite.
It is 182 miles, 293 kilometers, north of Springfield, Illinois, and 14 miles, 23 kilometers, north of Elgin, Illinois.
Alexa, stop. It's Illinois.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this looks like somebody put some work into it. I like the machete.
Yeah.
Hopefully they made it out of something like concrete so it's durable, because divers are known vandals.
Known vandals. One sent by random there that he can probably talk about better than me. The Nintendo
Is this the one
3D
I've just
stuff.
about to look at? Yeah, the Nintendo 3D. So this has been a while. I think it must
must be at least nearly 2 years that someone first sort of showed off this 3D NES emulator, which took the 2D flat sprites and tile maps of NES games, and then sort of extruded them out into 3D and gave it like shadowing and stuff, and did it in Unreal. I think must be an Unreal Engine 4 now. I think it was just a proof of concept thing, just to piss about in Unreal, but it's, it worked, so they ran with it, and we've seen sort of Castlevania, and everything looks kind of like a nice little diorama and stuff like that. But they've actually now added the ability to hook it up to, because it's Unreal 4. You're able to now play it in a VR headset if you've got an Oculus Rift or a HTC Vive, and so it sort of has sort of like a GIF of what would be, imagining you looking, your head moving and it reacting to the movement of your head, the head tracking, and the whole sort of playfield tilts, and it's all in sort of a nice extruded 3D, and it's not the most practical way to play NES games perhaps, but it looks kind of cool. Be a fun thing to maybe have, a show, get kids interested in, they sort of sign up for wanting to play with a nice new VR experience, come away, really liking NES games. Couldn't be wrong. Does appear to be wanting some money for it at the moment though, so it looks like he's got an itch.io account. So it's not doesn't look like it's necessarily a free emulator, but hey, if you want to check it out, try out some. If you've got a Vive or a Oculus Rift, he's promising to carry on working on it. Hence why he wants the money. So interesting little project, different spin.
UK on our soundboard, do we have a klaxon, like an alarm, like a caution alarm?
Oh, we do somewhere.
I know I've heard it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why did that not play?
Warning, it played perfectly.
Oh, did it?
Warning,
I didn't hear it.
Warning, we have a nerd fight. A nerd fight!
Oh, yes.
Got an email here. Games journalist Colin Moriarty confronts online harassment from Retronauts Bob Mackey. You know that podcast that goes away and comes back with like, I don't know, $500,000 for, whatever. So this is submitted by Rich Lather, Rugged Manliness. And he says here that last month, games journalist Colin Moriarty opened up his vlog, Colin's Last Stand, about the very real world of online bullying and harassment. The most jarring portion of his 18-minute video is directed at so-called professional journalist Bob Mackey, best known for his hosting duties on the Retronauts podcast. So I took a look at this. It's an 18-minute cut and paste bitch fest about upsetting words. And when I read this, and it says, Moriarty's video reveals the disturbing history of Mackey's behavior dating back to several years ago. You know what? It's online. It's words. It's not real. Online bullying isn't. And if you feel it is, drive over to the motherfucker's house, ring the doorbell, and punch him in the fucking face. I guarantee you he won't be expecting that shit. Or
send Butler around. He loves that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking Butler's a fucking hitman of fucking video games. I'm telling you. If old Moriarty here, Colin, wants to deal with Bob, instead of fucking having a nerd fight on YouTube, he said this was very upsetting. Wait till the fucker walks out of Starbucks and go, let me make things right. Bob, Colin, bam, right in the fucking jaw. And then walk inside and get a fucking latte. Fucking do it or don't. Fuck off, nerd.
And celebrate with pumpkin spice.
Yeah.
I've stuck a Reddit link into our Skype chat, which is from the other side where Bob Mackey did an episode of the Laser Time podcast. Then from his side, like eviscerating Colin Moriarty, and then the first
comment, or the top comment is just like, from the sounds of it, they're both as bad as each other. Apparently they can dish it out but can't take it, and yeah, that's pretty much what it seems to be. 'Cause Mike asked me if I'd heard anything about it when it came in, and I've heard bits and pieces from both sides through just friends of them in the industry and stuff, and people retweeting and then people trying to support it, or sort of they'll get they'll end up with all of their fans on their sides weighing in and do it slagging them off, and then their fans will fight back and all this sort of bullshit, and it just seems
I've never seen.
I mean, this would be the scenario that Scott painted, where they're one's waiting for the other outside of Starbucks in his skinny jeans. This would just be like a slap fight between two beta males.
Dude, you literally went exactly where I was going. Like you talked right over me, but made the fucking point in crystal clear clarity that I was fucking going to make. I said what this would be is two guys with scruffy little beards and a messenger bag. That's assault. I'm calling the fuck out of here. Just fucking go hit the motherfucker in the face or don't.
Yeah.
There's only one way to settle this.
Dance off.
Mario 64 Sunshine.
It'd be a bunch of this is truly beta male passive aggressive fucking territory here. I've documented everything. You know what? This is like those people that they're protesting for whatever fucking cause. I don't care what it is. And they go running across a road in the middle of traffic as people are trying to get to their homes and jobs. Basically, arguably, imprisoning people, prohibiting their freedom of movement, something they would never, ever allow themselves to be subjected to. I mean, can you imagine if you went to one of their little cause meetings and just fucking blocked the door and said you can't come out of the room? This is assault and it's wrong and it's bullying. But, they'll run across the fucking highway and trap you there. So someone just says, not playing your game, I'm coming through. And then fucking next thing, you see protesters, assholes, and elbows go up in the air. And it's, document everything, film it, get his plate number. This is truly beta male cuckfest. I guarantee you this much. Their fucking girlfriends, if any, are fucking sick of this. And they want some fucking real dick in their lives.
Hey, come on, we're modern.
Promise.
It could be boyfriends.
Or gender neutral.
It could be, yeah. They could identify as a cardboard box.
Transgender octopus traveling the universe or whatever the hell it is. This is just stupid is what this is. Two guys with messenger bags intertwined in a hostile tension.
I think you should moderate a fight between them, Scott.
That could be a panel for Portland or something.
Yeah.
You know what? I will
set up a couple of DDR machines.
I volunteer with any one of my co-hosts here who wish to attend. We will go to Portland. We will moderate the panel, and I swear to God, I would just sit there. I won't even raise my voice. Just like, so you're gonna hit him or not? On this day, he tweeted, "All right, go over there, uppercut, glass jaw, put him fucking down, or don't." All right, over to you. Well, on this date, he said this. I documented it. Okay, so walk over there and fucking cave his nose in, or don't. Over to you, sir.
I will say I typically enjoy a lot of the content that Bob Mackey's put out over the years. So I mean, I don't hate the guy. I think he does.
No, we're just having fun with it, obviously. Yeah. But for fuck's sake, God damn, we created a fucking 10-minute video about he said this. All right.
I'm pretty sure this fight's been going on for
it's over a year.
Got to be at least it's got to be 4 years or at least. I think or at least it feels like it. Yeah, it's just, how have they not just, by this point, just given up, got bored of it, or
got bored of the tension, just giving in to the passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Hey, I sent one in. This was an article I found on Lifehacker. Really cool site. It's basically more or less just a public service announcement. websites to get your retro gaming fix on. So this article, David Murphy just kind of goes through and, in case you guys are sitting bored at work and don't have access to a device on you, here's just a good reminder, some great places you can go play games online with no extra apps or Flash or anything like that. Of course, archive.org, Internet Archive, one of the great places to go play old classic video games. There's also, let's see here, what else here? Retro Games Online. I've been to that site before. They have a lot of 16-bit era stuff. They have an HTML5 player. It loads pretty quickly. It's pretty good. There's Emulator Online, another site where you can play a lot of games. They have some 64 games, which is pretty cool. Scum in HTML5 is available on, cbl.demon.fi's website, where they've ported some of the old games like Monkey Island, Day of the Tentacle, Loom. Mike, you're a fan of Loom, aren't you?
Yeah, pretty much all Scum games.
Yeah. So, what was the one I used to go to? Gaming. There was one I used to go to, but I think it gives you a virus if you're not on a Mac, so I won't bring that site up right now. But it works hella good on a Mac. So, just a good little reminder of some places you can go drift to on the internets while you're at work if you're feeling a little burned out. Get you in some Outrun or something good like that.
Awesome.
All right.
So one here. Go on.
So I've been reading one from Peter Gibbs that was sent in through the Submit News form. And he says, I've always liked the GameCube/Wii graphics. It was maybe the last console where games felt like games.
I think we've done that. Is it about the water effect?
About the water, yeah.
Yeah, we did that one. Yep.
All right. Actually, yeah. I was going through pretty interesting. Like, if anyone doesn't know, the Wii and GameCube used a fixed pipeline for its rendering GPU. So that's why with Dolphin, you have problems with a lot of stuttering the first time you run games because a new style graphics card has to build all these the way the shaders work up each time and sort of save that. And it depends, even just changing drivers and all sorts completely changes how that works. Whereas with the Wii and the GameCube, because it did these fixed things, it was able to just do that, that fixed pipeline every time, which was really, really weird way to work, but really kind of powerful in some ways, how you can manipulate it. Good fun.
So one here about Pinball Expo. Apparently something's happening to Pinball Expo, or somebody involved with Pinball Expo has gone off and started a new show. Rob will be starting a new show called Pinball Palooza, and it's going to be in Schaumburg, Illinois, if that's how you say it, and it will be September 12th to the 15th. Basically the same idea as Pinball Expo, the same format, only a whole lot more. We're not sure what will happen to Pinball Expo, so keep your eye out for Pinball Palooza and Pinball Expo.
Yeah, it sounds
and get some
like
Illuminati's pizza while you're out there. It's hella good.
it sounds like whoever runs Pinball Expo just created another expo.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're cutting out business partners.
Could be.
Now that's a bullshit. All right, that I should be clear about that. That's a completely baseless non-accusation. I was making a fucking joke, but wouldn't that be some funny shit?
That's pretty much how. I suppose the retro scene doesn't quite happen like that over here, did it? It wasn't. I mean, there were some shared staff that wanted to try and carry on doing both major expo strains, but and got in hot water from their respective, in air quotes, employers, trying to support both teams when both teams' organisers didn't want anything to do with each other and didn't want to cooperate. And we're trying to take each other down, but I don't think it was sort of splintered from them, was it? I think Craig and Chris just decided to, they'd done stuff before Chris had, so they just wanted to make something of their own. It wasn't sort of splintered off from play, but a lot of the staff did, that actually run it, set up all the games and stuff. I know a lot of them did originally go off and do it too, and play were kind of like, well, we're not going to
let you come and do ours if you're going to do theirs. And so, yeah.
You know,
I don't think
it
they
is
were that bothered. But
it is kind of a wonder that in America that some company hasn't sort of come up with a traveling expo yet for retro games.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you got the Play series over there. You know, with the newer game stuff, you have the Penny Arcade Expo, East, West. I think there's like a South and some other things now.
Well,
but
Joe, John, and Sean with Video Game History Museum, they did exactly that. They would, I mean, largely they exhibited at E3. I mean, I'm sorry, at CGE, which was their expo, but they also exhibited other places, including E3 and a couple out in California. So they did, before the museum became permanent in Frisco, Texas, it was a traveling temporary display museum. So that's been done, I think, with great success. I just don't know who out there. I mean, really, you're basically, other than something big like E3 that says, we'll write you a big check to come out, you're talking about giving up tremendous amounts of your free time and putting your stuff out there for nothing coming back. So I just don't, as a commercial venture, I don't think the dollars are there. Like if you went to MagFest, you know, I'm not, again, not digging on MagFest, but if you went to any major expo like MagFest and said, look, for 20 grand, I will put all my shit in a rented truck, drive it up there and display it. It probably cost me, you know, a couple grand to do. This is my profit margin. It's my business. There's no way they'd write the check. No way.
No way, man. One here from Game Over Box, and GameOverBox.com is pretty much a loot crate and all those other monthly boxes you get, and they are offering, obviously, exclusively video game related content. You know, there's a Link character there, socks, all that kind of stuff, lanyards, all the kind of stuff you get in those kind of boxes. So check out GameOverBox.com. Epic
Are the
Nintendo
boxes still a big
gear.
thing?
I don't think they're ever that big over here. I think it's mainly
Yeah, I
a
was gonna
US
say,
thing.
any interest that I did know from friends has kind of fizzled out a bit, but there wasn't a massive amount of interest to start with.
I wonder what the difference is. I mean, so we got, you know, a couple Brits and a couple Americans here. Let's, you know, we're sitting at the fucking bar, we're having a drink, we're talking about this. What's the difference? Because in America, the sort of, you know, box culture is huge. They have, you know, like for pets, right? Mm-hmm. They have Kitnip box, the cat box, fucking, like, I know that we get at least 4 of these boxes that include all these things. There's Loot Crate. There's, you know, the whatever the hell it is, Nerd Block. There's all these combo boxes that are kind of a big thing. But it just doesn't catch on in the UK. What do you guys think? Why?
Paula subscribes to a girly one. So I think there are ones out there for, you know, for girlies with lots of different perfume samples, makeup samples, stuff for the
Magic
kitchen,
bullets.
things like that. Yeah, butt plugs. But yeah, it's never really caught on for. Well, yeah, it's never really caught on for the male side of our society over here. I don't know why. Never really interested me.
They have like nail boxes here too, like where it comes with like different nail paints, and I've seen women's stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It may just be simple that if you can hit 1% of the population in America, that's quite, you know, that's enough to make it worthwhile putting stuff together.
If I could
and
just
doing
corner
it.
that 3%.
Corner the retro
1% of the
that's on
UK
eBay.
population's a lot smaller, isn't it? So
Yeah,
at
there
that
was
point,
someone
it's
over
probably
here,
not worth
whether it was like a Dragon's Den show or Richard Branson or someone like that, but they said they were talking about going into business, and somebody said, you know, why did you do it in the States, not here? He said, because my product is going to interest maybe 5% of people, and 5% of America is a lot more than 5% of the UK, so I launched it there. So that is a legitimate business practice.
Yeah, if I could just corner that 3% of the gaming market on eBay, man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've
It's the population base. We think it comes down to that.
I'm just speaking from a personal level. I mean, there was a novelty of these things when they first came out, and you know, I had a product that I got into 2 of the different boxes, but but at one point I was receiving Nerd Block, Loot Crate, Geekbox, and there's another one that's escaping me. And, you know, after a couple years of receiving them, I just, I was on a list. I got a couple as, you know, comp to me, and then just didn't renew. And it got to the point where literally, like, my house was just filling up with, like, all these little tchotchkes and shit every month. So I was like, all right, I'm good. Like, I don't need another Star Fox coffee mug or, you know, Ninja Turtles T-shirt and stuff like that. You look kind of lame as a, you know, late 30s-year-old wearing Ninja Turtle bobblehead shirts and stuff like that. So I had to cut it out.
Yeah.
Now, I should tell our listeners, and UK, you got to post the pic on the website. Our own Sparklepus, I was sitting there just bored, you know, going through the Savage memes and all that. And they always have, like, you know, alternative trampy slut starter kit. And it's like, you know, the basic accessories of sort of a stereotype. I see this one, it's guy who yells at his wife in public starter kit. And it is a shaved head, vis-a-vis Sparklepus, the sort of plaid shorts, sunglasses on the head, flip-flops. It was literally Sparklepus's exact fucking wardrobe.
I shared that with Tracy, and she was like, "Yep."
You're
not doing it right.
Well, if she'd have said no, you'd have beaten her. So, you know.
Put that shit in the cart. Let's go to the next aisle.
Oh my god, we can't shop together anymore. It's so bad.
Do you yell at her in public a lot?
It's usually the other way around, to be honest. But in response to her, yeah, it's usually yelling.
So a couple of news items left. One here from Steve Nicklin, and he used our Submit News form, and he says, have you seen the new Atari 8-bit version of Stunt Car Racer? While it was ignored back in the 80s due to the Atari not being commercially viable enough, 30 years have passed and we now have a great version on the Atari 8-bit. Because now, obviously, it's commercially viable. But anyway, it's been ported from the C64, and the higher speed CPU on the Atari means it gets a higher frame rate. Of course, link will be in the show notes, and I shall paste it in chat now for you.
Yeah, is it compatible with the Atari box?
Nothing is, apart from some vapor. But yeah, the Atari ST.
Farts and vapor, son. Farts and vapor. That's the future.
ST's got a couple of good 3D games on there, because it was a lot better for it than the Amiga. And if anyone would want my Atari ST, I might be parting with that soon. So if you're looking for one, hit me up. So no, probably not. I didn't get that one signed. I only got the Amiga signed. Bit pissed off, but never mind.
I'll sign it.
So one, yeah, signed by us lot. Easy. Got one here that was. Go on.
I sent one in. This iPhone case doubles as a retro gaming handheld. It's by Winnell or Waynell, gamers console for the iPhone, and it's a little pop case that you put on the back of your iPhone. Guys, this is really cool. It makes the back of the iPhone look kind of like a Game Boy. I don't know how it works, but it's a monochrome LED screen that's built into it. Has D-pad buttons, start, select. I mean, it kind of looks like a Game Boy, right? And it's like $33.99. You can get it. Plays a couple games, kind of like a Tetris game, Snake, Formula One racing, Tank. So kind of like the old Game & Watch type thing, like Game Boy on the back of your iPhone. I don't know. It's a cool conversation piece. Hey, if it protects your iPhone, honestly, some of those...
Tetris.
What?
Tetris. That's pretty cool. I was just checking it out. I think the Tetris looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I mean, unless you buy a phone case online, the price is like a work of fiction sometimes. I mean, I'll go to the Apple store with my kids, And they're like, Dad, I want that rhinestone case. And I'm like, it's fine, go get it. And I figure it's going to be, I don't know, $10, $15 or something. They're like,
$44.99, sir.
yeah, they're like, that'll be $59.99. I'm like, what in the fuck? I'm like, put that shit back, you know, or even those little kiosks they have at malls. We'll walk by and the kids will see like, you know, Hello Kitty case or something. They're like, Dad, I want it. All right, go ahead, grab it. And they're like, yes, sir, that'll be, you know, $47. I'm just like, forget it. But yeah, you could go on Amazon, find cases all day long for, you know, sub $20. But hey, for 40.
Oh, you can go on fucking AliExpress where they all come from and pay $3 for the same.
Yeah,
it's 10 cents a molded rubber.
I had one of those that was a molded. It looked like a cassette tape.
Yeah,
and
cool.
Yeah.
There was a couple times where I was walking around in public, talking on the cassette tape, and people like, because like the way I'd hold it to my head, I really think people thought I was like crazy and like recording into a cassette tape, and
yeah, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I went into. This guy I worked with was trying to tell me about this like cheap generic cleaning detergent I can get. And I went into this store and it was like a Second Harvest. And I think it was like really for homeless people to go in. But I had went in there and I bought like a bag of wings for like $2 or something. And I think he sold it to me, but it was like they were really giving it out to homeless people. And somehow I ended up in like a food bank or something. I don't know. But I bought these wings and I brought them home and they were expired by like 6 months. So I went back there and I had my phone case on and I had it in my hand. And when I was telling the guy, I'm like, hey, look, you know, I bought these wings and they're expired. And he's like, are you fucking recording me? Get the hell out. He grabbed me and kicked me out of there and was like, don't ever come back in here. I don't sell expired food. And got very angry by seeing like the cassette tape that I think he thought like somehow I was like recording him with a cassette tape. But yeah, you can get those.
No, I'm recording you with the phone inside.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
No, I bought a decent phone case for my iPhone 6. It's UAG. It's got like, you know, rubberized inserts on the harder plastic. It saved my iPhones. I drop phones. I throw phones. I mean, like not like deliberately, but rarely deliberately. But I have done the thing like where it just shoots out of your hand and hits the ground. Mm-hmm. So it's a good case. It has just enough thickness because I hate those cases that like double the thickness of the phone, totally ruining the form factor that they worked on. Mm-hmm. So I like the case. So I bought a iPhone X or whatever the fuck it is. And it physically fits into the UAG case, but one of the cameras and a light was covered up. So I'm like, I could go spend $40 for another one, or X-Acto knife, zoop, carve that, put it back in there, done.
So good.
But see, $33 for this little, playable case. Yeah, that's fair enough. Even if it's kind of a novelty. All right, but $33 for a lump of rubber and plastic, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, it costs you like, well, probably, I don't know actually these days, but yeah, those sort of the multi-game Tetris sort of handhelds, were around that price point when they were popular. So sticking one inside a phone case, that seems reasonable, I think, for a bit of fun. And there's certainly like handheld gaming stuff now that's a lot more expensive than that people are selling. Yeah, go on.
Oh well, are you headed for the Gorilla Basic one?
Oh, I was, yeah. So
I see the floor to you, sir, since you submitted.
This is one that I submitted and one that I stumbled across on the internet one day at work when I was bored, and it's someone else that's been bored, and it hit me because of something like one of my first sort of programming things pissing about with was when we got hold of Windows 3.1. And QBasic came with gorillas.bas, and you'd go in and you'd play it with your mates and have a good time, but you'd go in and mess about with the gravity and the physics and odds and ends and see what happened. And then also the other reason it got me is it's making use of Excel, which I made a Outrun style driving engine in Excel when I was in a board period at work. I wanted to learn how the maths of all of that worked. And so what they've done is they've recreated QBasic gorillas in Excel. So you can go there and download the Excel sheet for it, and sit and have a play if you're bored and want to do something on your work computer that's only got Office on it. It doesn't quite look the same as it used to, but it's how much do you need to do to have some skyscrapers, two monkeys, and a banana you can throw with you setting the angles. So yeah, check that out.
So one Maplins is apparently closing up shop. Now, currently, their clearance prices are 20% off of computer and gaming products. So is a $150 graphics card for $250 now $230 really worth it?
Well, graphics cards are all fucking messed up anyway, pricing wise, because of partially because of crypto mining, but partially also a RAM shortage. So it's a bit hard to sort of judge on that. But the fact that most people that I've seen, because there's one just down the road from me, and I saw some people discussing it on Reddit, and asking whether there's any bargains, because it's meant to be up to 50% off, and they were like, I went in, most of it's actually only 10% off, and instead of paying 30 quid for a 3 quid HDMI cable, you're paying 30 quid minus 10%. At best you're going to be paying like 20 quid, and it's still only a 3 quid HDMI cable. So
yep.
None of it's still worthwhile, really.
No. One of the last ones, I think, if not the last one, is sent in by Spinal. I don't know if anyone has seen this, but I found it interesting. This guy on YouTube has put together an album of songs that, when played through an oscilloscope in XY mode, make nice pictures. Go have a look. Maybe test it out yourself. He sent some links here. There are 3. There's an explanation, there's a music site, and there's a video for you to watch. He said it would be a stretch to call the sounds music, but they're not white noise either. I guess the principle is to make it look nice on the oscilloscope, which they kind of do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching what he did here. It's sort of like the 3D, tumbling of cubes and all that. Yeah, I mean, any waveform, like if you look at, say, the clock signal going into a CPU on a, pinball MPU, you can watch that clock waveform, right? It'll be like a, square wave, You watch the audio signal, say, coming out of the sound chip on the soundboard of that same pinball. You'll see, a sinusoidal wave that contains the audio. It's a visual depiction of the audio that you're hearing. So, all you have to do is figure out, okay, I want to make a cube tumble. That's going to be a certain waveform. So that certain waveform, if played back, would have a sound. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Exactly what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that Narul Mahajabim Hassan ever left that oscilloscope to marry Tetris, because this oscilloscope is way more impressive.
Yeah. I don't know what the dude's doing with these objects. Oh, dear. So, I think we're at the end, aren't we?
Yeah, one thing I want to chime in on Gorilla Basic. I played a lot of Gorilla Basic. It was distributed, as you said, with MS-DOS. And we had these 386, you can't really call them laptops. They were, the luggables, And they used them for what was called the RMM system on the Patriot missile. And it still had, because it was straight DOS with the, the Raytheon written application installed over it that would monitor the Patriot missiles. You could actually bring that down. Obviously, you didn't do it when, you were actually shooting missiles at incoming missiles. But, during training or just, downtime, or when you weren't using RMM, you could run Gorilla Basic and, have a video game and something to do. So I would go in and just, edit it, everything you can imagine. Just, you try and turn the banana into some poo or whatever. And, that was a fun game that actually taught you, if you weren't a good coder, it would teach you enough about, manipulation of variables to at least understand how a game worked underneath. I wonder when I followed DOS all the way through. I remember 622 was a big release, and then I think 7, and then at that point, 7 was like. And Mike, you would know this better than I. 7 was like the underpinnings of Windows 95, right?
I think it was earlier than that because 7. I think Windows 98 came with 6.5. I want to say something like that, and then 7 onwards. So it might be even earlier than that.
So even 98 still had DOS underneath it.
Oh yeah, because my when I built a cab on Arcade OS, I installed Windows 98, and you just take a line out of the boot.ini that stops the GUI. It's something like run GUI, and you put a switch on that says no, and it just literally boots into DOS. If you want to run Windows, you do the same thing. Type Win, enter, and it boots Windows 98.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that you could do that, and I certainly did that when one main machine I built. I did exactly what you did, 98, and I just assumed it was a pre-boot sort of environment, not necessarily really DOS. And
no, it's the full DOS. It's full version of DOS.
I just figured it was some sort of intermediate thing meant to look like it for familiarity, but that's kind of cool,
Yeah.
But when did Gorilla Basic go away? Anybody know?
Not something I ever got into.
I don't think it. QBasic, I don't think was shipped with 95, was it?
What was interesting too is Minesweeper when they finally killed that off, or
Solitaire. Oh god,
yeah.
Solitaire's now a fucking pay to play thing, isn't it? Isn't there like adverts or some shit in the latest one?
Have you guys seen that one video? It's out there online, and listeners, it's worth your time to go watch this. It's kind of unique. And it's entitled something like "Every Version of Windows Installed Back to Back." So a guy takes a machine, and it's got, he's hooked up 360 kilobyte floppies, 1.44, and SD and all it. And he goes through and installs like Windows 1, and then Windows, 3, and then Windows 3.1 and 3.11 and 95. And he's doing updates. So he's letting, like, for example, Windows 3.0 install, be 3.11 install over 3.1, and then 95 over that. And how many of the programs still hung around? So he picked out like some random little program in like Windows, 2. And then up through like 98, it was still there, but like had been gussied up, as Windows does. It was kind of a neat exercise. It was a good little video. It's worth a watch.
One thing I was going to say, just to finish off, is, Scott, they were talking about you in chat earlier, about your image that's up there on the live page, because you've no video, and they were saying, did you manicure your eyebrows? Not that manicure is the right word, but did you tweeze your eyebrows so that they can completely match the outline of your glasses?
Hold on. I have to go back because I just closed that down. I'll answer that fairly. Somebody took that picture as I was getting out of a really a cool Citabria I was flying, and we had just landed in like a brutal crosswind. Like, I mean, it was like, we got down to the ground, and it was like, dude, we're alive, kind of thing, And so, no, I certainly did not. I've never trimmed my eyebrows, but if you notice, I've got a look of like, yeah, dude, we're alive.
Okay. Well, that's about the end of it then.
Do.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone who stopped by and watched us live. If you didn't do it this month, try and do it next month. We will announce as soon as we can, at least a couple of weeks out if we can, for the April edition. So we will see you again next month, I guess. Tatty bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Send your news in.
So, top 10 tomorrow. I got my picks. I'm going to type them in here this evening, and we'll be ready to go.
Yep. Back to back.
Mine are number 1 and number 2.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right, later,
Bye.
bitches.